can you tell us a bit about the different probes and electrodes that the Kegel8 uses, and how women might find a different probe would be better for them? What's your thoughts on that?
Can you see how similar they all are? They're all trying to do the same thing, which is deliver the electrical current as close to the belly of the muscle as possible so that it can pick up the nerves that make the muscle work. So you'll see that they've got these bars side to side, and they all look quite similar because inside the shape of the vagina, as you go in, it goes wider more than higher, and the muscles are on the belly of the muscles is mainly on the side. So this one was designed first when they moved from having very long ones to small ones. This is the first one that came. And it's nice and light and simple, and the bars are on either side. And what I like about it is that it's quite easy to tell if you got it the right way up. It's the one that you'll often get in a hospital because it's the cheapest one that's available. You can tell which way it's up because you need your cables coming up the top or out the bottom. They mustn't be going side to side. And it's got a nice little hook to help pull it in and out, which is good if your hands struggle with small things. They left a hole in the top at the beginning because the idea was that if you had a bit of prolapse, it would be able to sit into that hole. But over time, what we found is that sometimes it pinches a bit as people are taking it out. So the difference between this one and this one is that this one's got a filled-in middle. So it's just as light, and you can tell which way up because you need the smooth bar up and the groovy bits to the side. And it's got the nice hilt so you can tell if you've got it in the right distance. But it's got a filled-in middle, so if you've got a bit of prolapse, it will sit there. Or if you've got a bit of bowel prolapse, it won't push up and make this move. So they're very similar, and you're really thinking about prolapse support there for those two. Something to notice about them as well is that they're made of stainless steel, the bars. Now, stainless steel is a great conductor, but it does contain a little bit of nickel. So if you have a nickel allergy, which you might know from jewellery, you might find that that's irritating. So this one is trying to tick all the boxes, and you'll see it's gold-plated, and that's because that's less allergic and would be your choice if you did have a nickel allergy. It's got a filled-in middle, and it's still lightweight, and it's just got a flatter structure, the idea being that you could put it under a prolapse more comfortably, and it's a bit less bulky than those.
And you're calling that the bars, the metal bars.
The metal bars.
So it's but that is also the electrode. That's where the pulse is.
Yeah, if we're being technical, that's the electrode, and this is the probe. But they do tend to get called the electrode or the probe. But yes, that's where the electricity's got to move between those two bars. That's why you have to have your gel on the bars.
And how about the long, slim one there?
So this one, the slim one, is what you would use if you were wanting to do some stimulation to the anal sphincter and through the back passage. So it's going to be quite relevant to people with fecal incontinence, or also if you had a 3rd or 4th degree tear and you know that the anal sphincter needs some rehabilitation as well. It's got a hilt that moves. So once you know how far in to put it, you've got this little guide to help you. This bar is designed to pick up the sphincter and exercise that. The slightly deeper bar is to pick up the levator plate, the pelvic floor muscles further in. And because it's nice and slim, we also sometimes use this if we've got somebody with a very small vagina or who has had a lot of pain and feels that it can't stretch. This is a little bit slimmer and friendlier to use for vaginal stimulation. The only problem would be that, of course, it could move about more. So it's a little bit of a play.
So they would have to be quite small.
They'd have to be quite small and then keep your knees together.
Yes.
Some of the things we talked about earlier. But more friendly if you're thinking, I'm not sure about this. This would be a nice slim one to try. So it could be used in either place, whereas you can't put these into the back passage. They're all the wrong shape.
And if someone doesn't want to use an anal or a vaginal probe, what's the options for them?
Yeah, so muscle stimulation is best delivered as close as possible to the muscle and to where the nerves are. But before these were invented, it was always delivered using surface electrodes, these little sticky pads. And where you can put them is where the nerve starts, which is in the spine. So they can be positioned round the sacrum, which is the very, very low bit of your spine. It doesn't matter if you're a little bit higher than where the nerve comes out, because it will still affect the nerves below. And you can do that with just 2 or 4 surface electrodes. The machines will come with instructions about where to put the electrodes. The key thing is that there must be a gap between them, because you don't want the electricity to jump from one to the other, because you want it to go through and stimulate the nerve on its way. So they usually suggest you leave the distance of an electrode between electrodes. There is one type of stimulation that we do for the overactive bladder problem, which is the one we talked about calming the nerves and sending lots of sensory nerves. And that can be done through the vaginal electrode, or through sacral placed electrodes, or through putting it near your tibial nerve, which is down by your ankle. And again, there would be instructions on where to place it. Or you could do a combination. You could have a vaginal electrode in position and some stimulation on the tibial nerve area as well. And that's about comfort and finding out what works for you and whether you feel that you're getting some effect from that. They're doing lots of research. They're trying to figure out the best way to do this. And, it's still being discovered, but some people are getting positive results from that tibial nerve stimulation. We missed one. This one over here. This one is one that's called a perisize, and it has a bar that releases so that you can narrow it to put it in, but once it's in, it widens. So that's quite ergonomic, because that's what the vagina does inside. The opening's quite small, but then it does widen. So this is good if you feel you're not getting that side-to-side contact. This one will maybe be a little bit wider overall. It's the widest you can get. The other thing about it is that you'll see it's got more cables, and that's because it's acting like 2 electrodes, really. This one is independent of this one. Now, if internally you've got one side that's more sensitive or uncomfortable, you might want to have this one on a lower amplitude, less volume, and this one higher. Or the opposite way around, you might feel, actually, I need to turn it up more on the right than on the left. I can't feel it. So you can adjust 2 sides separately, which you can't do with these. So it's quite specialist. It'd be the kind of thing that maybe your physiotherapist guided you towards, or you'd used a basic one first and felt that you hadn't got the width. It wouldn't be a first one to go for.